Brocast is back, baby.
This Brewcast episode is brought to you by the Brewcast Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the Brewcast name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another Brewcast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please ring the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Brewcast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, Brewcast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below. Hey there, Brewcast fans, welcome back to another Brewcast episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. By doing all of those things, you're gonna be then running to win one of our giveaways. Yes, we're gonna keep doing the giveaways. You guys keep liking, keep commenting, keep subscribing. We're gonna keep doing that. And we're gonna announce the winner of the giveaway, this month's giveaway, at the end of this month, of course. And the winner gonna win something from the Brewcast Store, either a cap, either a mug. It's a surprise. All you have to do is comment, like, and subscribe. And good luck to everyone. It's a worldwide wild giveaway, so no matter where you are in the world, we're gonna make sure to deliver the prize to the winner. Okay, let's talk about our channel sponsor. Parents, if you've been searching for an app that's both fun and educational for your kids, I've got something exciting to share with you. It's called FunTastic Plus. FunTastic Plus is a free app where education meets entertainment, designed specially for children aged 2 to 12. It's built by experts, completely ad-free and totally safe, so you can feel confident handing your phone or tablet to your little ones. Inside the app, kids will find a world of engaging content, their favorite cartoons, audiobooks, and songs to spark imagination, and educational games that make learning fun. All of that to keep them entertained while supporting their development. FunTastic Plus is available on iPhones and iPads and even works offline. So whether you're in a road trip, flying, or just at home, your kids will always have something to enjoy. So if you're ready to give your kids a space that's both fun and educational, download now FunTastic Plus for free on the App Store. FunTastic Plus, a safe and ad-free educational platform for kids. Link on the description below. Alright, so FunTastic Plus, that was our channel sponsor. Make sure to check it out, it's really fun. Okay, let's talk about our guest. We have a very special guest today. His name is Aaron Scott. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. You made that toy sound so appealing. I might look into it myself.
Please do. It's a lot of fun. I have it on the phone, and there's plenty of games, audiobooks. It's for kids, man. I don't know if you have
check
kids.
it out. I've got a couple. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So how is New York today? So before anything, what about we start with a short introduction? Who are you, Aaron?
Yeah. So my name is Aaron Scott. I am an ex Wall Street executive. I used to own a hedge fund, and I guess I'm kind of on a path now to really kind of push for what I'm perceiving to be this kind of global awakening. It's something that I kind of embarked on, quite some time ago, actually, maybe, I'd say as early as 20 to 25 years ago. I always kind of got a sense that things were not as they seem. Things didn't really kind of align with me, make sense to me. And I was always kind of like pushing against something that I wasn't fully aware of. Right. And over the course of kind of my career and my own research and experience, I kept kind of like coming back in touch with the same kind of internal resistance. And I kind of reached a breaking point. And I said to myself, let's kind of like take a step back and let's look into what's going on. Let's look at the mechanics. Let's look at these systems on a more iterative basis. and get a better understanding of kind of what's going on. And it's kind of through that lens that I've really constructed this effort to awaken people to many of the systemic constraints, many of the sort of hidden embedded frameworks through which, globally we all kind of live in, right? And I'll give you a shameless plug. I've got a book coming out in about 3 weeks' time called Before We Forget. We'll talk about it later on, but it's really about giving people access to truth and knowledge and a heightened level of awareness and perspective to kind of help guide them on a really coherent path in life, and to show people that they have a lot more power than they think, and that they aren't really um, that they shouldn't look at their lives as being burdened by these systems that really constrain us.
When you say the systems that constrain us, which systems exactly you're referring to?
Really, all of the systems, and I can go into this on a more in-depth level, but anything from economic systems to education systems to medical systems to religious systems, right? The what ended up happening was, we erected these systems initially ideologically to support humanity, to allow humans to thrive, to push forth collective good, to allow us to ascend and evolve collectively. But what ended up happening was the systems themselves, the institutions themselves, mistook their purpose. And we started creating and really allowing for the systems to start being the ones that we are following and worshiping. And we mistook our place and they mistook their place in sort of that sacred relationship, if you will. So if you want me to kind of drill kind of deeper on that, if you look at in America and certainly in Great Britain, across Europe, and France for sure, the education system. In the United States, the education system was founded on what's well known as the Prussian model. And the Prussian model was designed to create docile factory workers, right? So at the turn of the 20th century, we had American industrialists like John D. Rockefeller and Carnegie, who literally, put together a framework for the U.S. education system that was not really rooted in anything other than constructing these sort of docile workers, where you go into school where you're learned to memorize and regurgitate. You're not learned to think critically. You are graded based on performance. A grade of an A, a B, or a C, pass, fail, gold stars. And I talk about kind of what that does to the individual psyche and the individual sort of perspective or sense of self. And what it has cultivated is it has cultivated a real kind of individual identity with value based on performance, based on utility, based on what you can provide society, based on what you can provide yourself. And what that does is that obscures people's true connection really with themselves. It obscures any real in-depth understanding of themselves and of individual purpose, because you're constantly, again, you're contorting yourself to accommodate these systems based on your perceived utility or your perceived value. And this is not a sort of woo-woo abstract concept. We're all well aware of this. Like when a child comes into the world, you have like onesies that say, future CEO, or let's start a college fund, right? I mean, so it's really indoctrinated and it's ingrained in our lives. But we mistake this to be normal. We really normalize this sort of, I call it, normalizing disconnection, where we take the core and the essence, the soul of a person, and it's pushed to the side so that they can fit into this cog in a wheel. They can fit into this peg. We go to university in order to, fill a role, to be a doctor or a lawyer. We are becoming these things, but in truth, we're not becoming anything. These are our occupations, and we miss the connection that, or we obscure the connection that we have with ourselves, and we incorrectly reorient to the external world. So that's just kind of one example. I can go into many other systems that exist that sever that sever and create these kind of like superficial disconnections.
Hmm. So you're not against systems at all. You're just against the ones we currently have.
I'm against the metastasis of these systems, how they have really grown to operate as control mechanisms, not just for our minds, but for upward mobility, and how the systems no longer serve humanity. They now serve special interests. They now serve corporations. If you look at the medical industry, for example, at the turn of the 20th century, again in the United States, these same kind of individuals, they completely usurped the existing holistic model, natural remedies. Um, these well known to be effective methodologies, whether it was using frequencies or um, energy sources, again, using food as medicine, they were thrown out. They were considered quackery. They were called quackery. And what was replaced was an allopathic approach to medicine, where you had to, where entire medical schools were indoctrinated with new medical frameworks, where you had to purchase your medicine through a pill, where the what the objective wasn't to cure the medicine, wasn't to cure the disease through the medicine, but it was to treat symptoms, so that you had a sort of consistent revenue stream where the company benefited, but the individual was brushed aside. The true well-being of the individual, of the human, was not tantamount to the medical industry concern, right? So this is a systemic issue. Now, it's about it's my belief that we have been sort of run off course here. We have been led astray, and it's not really about, in my mind, about burning down the systems. We have to kind of reimagine them. We have to reconstitute them, and we have to reshape them so that they, again, serve their purpose, which is to improve humanity, improve health, give children the ability to wonder again, to use their imagination, to be creative. We've completely. A child doesn't learn on a linear basis. They don't learn sitting down, fitting into a square box. They learn on a very sort of reciprocal, circular, non-linear basis, where they're learning to feel, touch, experience, and then gain information. In the current model, you're sat down and you're force-fed information, never questioning, just accepting. So I mean, again, it's about consciously becoming aware of how these systems, how we then as individuals, as citizens, start embodying the consciousness of these systems. We don't realize it, but in truth, that's what happens. And we start becoming complacent and we don't question. And it's really, in order for us to, as a society, as a civilization, quite frankly, to really kind of take back control and take back inner sovereignty, we have to become aware of how these systems are no longer serving humanity, are no longer serving their original intention.
I see. So, in your opinion, the citizens are not in power right now, and by having them reclaiming that power, we would have a better society. Isn't that socialism? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely not.
No?
No, because capitalism in its current form is not true capitalism.
Okay.
Capitalism in its current form is completely corrupt capitalism.
Okay.
And I say that because you have companies that now control policy on the government level. You have companies that now dictate how, in the States, how the Food and Drug Administration approves or does not approve medications. So what's happened is you've had, again, in late stage capitalism, you start seeing these manipulative, corruptive practices manifest in these sacred institutions. So the point is that it's not about capitalism or socialism or some state-run anything. It's about the consciousness behind the systems. It's about reclaiming the value system, reclaiming the ideals, and then reinserting those into these systems. Capitalism in its pure, true form, uncorrupted, I think is the right tool. But it's what has happened to them. It's how they have metastasized into this parasitic, really construct across the board. And it's a function of policymakers becoming greedy, putting their self-interest above society. And it's about how corporations have come in and their interests are now what are being served.
And what would be the alternative to improve all of that?
I think it's quite simple. I think that we have to get rid of corruption on a global scale. I think we have to no longer allow pharmaceutical companies to dictate our health policies. We have to have oversight that scrutinizes medications, scrutinizes food. I mean, I could give you a laundry list of ways that, all of these systems have been penetrated. In the States, for example, and I'm sure you guys have this um, in Germany, and I know for a fact it's in other places, although it is far less prevalent given EU regulation. Um, and certainly I know this to be the case in England. But for example, if you look at a McDonald's Happy Meal or McDonald's, products, you don't get 35 ingredients in Europe. In the States, McDonald's French fries are completely contaminated with artificial flavoring. I mean, I think the shelf life on this stuff is like months before it forms mold. And in Europe, I know for a fact in England, it's like four ingredients, and it's because you have health policies that prevent that from happening, right? Um, we have what are called genetically modified seeds or foods in the States. They were developed because pesticide companies were treating crops and they started destroying the crops themselves. They killed the bugs and they killed the crops. So what do we do? Well, because industrial agriculture determines our food system in the States, we had the brilliant idea of letting these same food companies who make the pesticides create GMO seeds, which are resilient to the pesticides and which allow the pesticides to not kill the produce. But now you have these same companies um, owning the food supply, and then there are companies that make farmers buy their seeds. So again, it's what we've done is we've taken everything. Everything's for sale. Everything is based on profit. Everything is based on you know just a completely wrong way of looking at society. We have to care about people and not put profit above everything else.
In your opinion, do you think it's possible to then have this capitalistic society that we're already in, but completely remove corruption? Is that even possible, you think?
I know it's possible, and I know that it will happen because, as you see across the globe, people are becoming aware of the corruption and the real systemic rot that has happened, whether it's with Western hegemonic policies across the globe, where we manufacture wars in the Middle East, where you saw corruption in Nepal. This corruption is going to get people will not stand for it anymore, and it's because and it's kind of like lends itself to what I was speaking to earlier. But when you have systems that are really in charge, when you have institutions that are controlling really the lifeblood of population, what ends up happening is you end up creating a sort of a mechanized society where people are forced to contort themselves, where they're forced to work for all of their waking hours, where they're forced to brush aside time for themselves, where they're forced to push their health on the back burner, their time with their family on the back burner. So what's going to happen to the individual? Well, the economy requires these individuals to sustain it, right? So eventually the individuals that are sustaining it are going to break because they can't keep up and they're not being compensated for it. And they can't afford to buy a home, and they can't afford to send their children to school. And then the job market is horrible. So what's the natural response? There's going to be pushback. And eventually the systems will have to reform because people will not buy into them anymore. It used to be that you could get away with propaganda. You could get away with whatever you want to do on the international front in the States. Nobody cared about it. They looked aside because they were guaranteed a home, a driveway, a car, and a chance to ascend in society. This is no longer the case. So you're seeing the beginning of this transformation, of this revolution, and it will have to push these systems and these institutions to reform because people won't buy into them anymore.
How much do you think AI will affect this whole transformation?
It's a really good question, and I think that if you look at the way that um, if you look at sort of the people who are heralding AI, the real developers behind these massive platforms, you see, technology companies, you see sovereign nation states, you see intelligence agencies. Their goal is not to support humanity. I think it's quite clear, right? They're used to. It's also, by multinational corporations. It's used to, streamline efficiency. It's used to create defense systems. It's used to surveil populations. And what you're going to start seeing is, AI will be sold, I think, to people as, oh, it'll improve It'll improve the treatment of some diseases. It will improve your ability to access information or to do your jobs. Yes, that might be the case at the beginning, but what will end up happening is, as with any civilization that is mechanized and that is really pushed through institution and systemization, the individual will be pushed aside. And if we don't kind of keep things in check, and we don't allow, if we don't um, incorrectly create AI as our god, right? Um, we will be able to kind of rein things in, but we have to be very careful, because if we allow AI to progress as it has, we're going to run into some real problems. And very quickly, this is not conspiratorial. I mean, the major technology executives, the guys behind AI's development, have said this openly. They said, we are concerned about the safety of artificial intelligence. We are concerned about it on a number of platitudes. And in fact, I think Mark Zuckerberg had a conversation with, I forget who the other executive was, but Mark said, like, look, I'm concerned about the safety of us allowing sort of this progression to run rampant, to run on its own. But if I don't, then this other guy is gonna move forward with an escalated development. So it's like the whole mentality is so like delusional. It's so off from where it should be focused. We've lost sense of our connection to humanity, to global humanity. It's quite clear.
So Mark Zuckerberg is developing it to make money, because if he doesn't, someone else will do it and make more money, and there you go. Yeah.
This is a problem, I think. No.
So in their yeah. So in their minds, in their point of view, it's inevitable because people want it. They need to make it, and the consequences are the consequences, basically.
I mean, I don't think they're making it for people. I think they're making it for themselves. I think they're making it to. I think the social media companies are using it to scrape data quicker, to sell data quicker, to create content that's consumable. But I think that actually, I know that that's what's driving the actual industry. Now, people are going to be able to utilize that for their own businesses and things of that nature. But it's the higher goal, it's the higher aim. And what's going to happen is, like we just said, people are going to start losing jobs en masse. It's not going to be this kind of like utopian ideal that we're sold. And also, since when in the history of modern medicine have pharmaceutical companies ever developed cures? We have dozens of pharmaceutical companies in the States. No one's ever cured a disease. That's not by mistake. That's by design, right? So it's like you're kind of like fed these illusions, but in truth, we need to look closely at who is stewarding these developments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Aaron, we touched on a bunch of industries, right? To the pharmaceutical industry, the tech industry, the educational industry. Is it an? I don't think is it an industry? That's how you call it, educational industry. I don't know.
Educational system.
The
Educational
education
system.
system. Yeah, that's better. Educational system. We touched on a bunch of them, and in how they are problematic in many ways. But we also touched on the pushback. You said that pushback is inevitable. It should happen in order to improve things. But there's so many problems. What do you think would be the most effective single action that an individual could take in order to improve things, as much as they can right now, like a single one?
It's kind of tough, because I think you can approach it from a multifaceted lens, but I can name kind of like 2 or 3 main things that must happen, right? The first thing is we need to have leaders that are willing to stand up to these corporations, that are willing to not become corrupted, that are willing to put their, the base that they're representing above the corporate interests. They need to be willing to stop taking in money from lobbyists. They need to be willing to look over their ability to buy a second home, or to buy a third car, or to take this vacation because they're being greased by some special interest. That's the first thing that has to happen. And I don't view this as something that's so hard to take place. I think that there are people that are willing to and that can step up and lead and guide society in the right direction. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that people need to stop consenting to parts of these systems. They need to stand up and say, look, you're going to be taxing us at 50%, but you're not doing anything that helps me. You're spending $100 billion on a war, but we don't have healthcare. You're spending $1 trillion on defense systems and weapons. We cannot. Our children are not being educated. Our municipal roads are not being repaired. If as a collective people said, we're not going to go along with this joke anymore, we're not going to play your game anymore, the system breaks immediately, and then people have to change. If people are willing to, and the third one really is if people can awaken to these truths and these realizations, the best approach, the quickest approach, I think, is to push back with their wallets. If they know that a company is creating food products that are effectively artificial, manufactured, ultra processed poison. I mean, they might taste good, but they're horrible for their autoimmune system. They're horrible for their endocrine system. They're horrible for, their brain development. They're horrible for, every part of them. If people become educated to these facts and they start speaking with their wallet, and they start pushing back and saying, you know what, I'm not going to support this company anymore. I'm not going to support this industry anymore. I'm not going to go about and start looking for alternatives, start looking to eat organic produce, start looking to support local farmers. This is the most effective way. And by the way, what I think you'll see is as more people awaken globally, I think that it's a slippery slope for coming kind of in contact with a lot of these realizations, and people will start kind of becoming more interested in looking for more and for more and for more, and then it will start spreading for lack of a better word, like a virus, because people will start talking to each other. There's always this mass discussion around vaccines because of what happened with COVID. Well, people are becoming educated on the vaccination programs, on how we went from 9 vaccines in the mid 80s to 26 vaccines now. Why? I mean, it's just crazy. So, it's about people, again, speaking with their wallet, engaging in conversations about these topics, and then I think you'll start seeing real change.
With the ultimate goal of living in a world corruption free.
I think that's the only path forward, to be honest with you.
I see. Whew, I envy your optimism, Aaron. I hope it happens. I was listening to Jordan Peterson the other day, and he said that corruption is part of humanity, every system. No matter what system you are in, eventually, over time, it will become corrupt, if not actively. If people are not aware that it can become corrupt, it will. And would you agree with that?
Well, I think that there's a couple of layers here. I think that there's some truth to what Jordan Peterson said. However, the reason that corruption is able to foster, the reason that corruption is able to perpetuate itself at such a scale, is not just a story about special interests and lobbyists. It's about other mechanisms, other levers that are pulled to keep the population under check, to keep them in the dark, to keep a veil over their eyes. And we see this manifest through ideological wars across the globe, where you have movements that are pushing for things like this whole gender identity scam, where this person is born a male, but they're not really a man because there's 700 genders. Just so people are aware, this is not some revelatory construct. This was manufactured, and it's manufactured by special interests, people in China who are looking to infiltrate communist policy, by large NGOs in the States that are funded to push these ideologies. These are not evolutionary progressive mindsets. These are manufacturers, and they're manufactured to disconnect people from reality. We have a sort of like a binary thought process that plagues the human mind, where we have Democrat versus Republican, where we're distracted between these social issues, these phrases that hypnotize people. In truth, if you look at where the real money is spent, where the real policy is shaped, it's behind closed doors and it's across party lines. You have $100 million bailouts to banks. You have wars that are being funded behind closed doors. You have mass immigration policy taking place. I mean, so the real decisions that are being made and kept from the general public. The real special interests that are being served are kept from the guise of the American public. So there are real mechanisms at play that, and by the way, this goes back to religious institutions. That's kind of the original veil of deception, where people were forced to access the power within them, their connection to source through some external intermediary, through some third party. I mean, how comical is that idea where your true power, your true connection, your true spirit exists in some external realm that only a guy dressed in a funny robe with a rod in his hand can give you access. I mean, it's so fantastical, it's so comical that but it's digested and people conform to it and people believe it. But I can tell you this because I've studied these religions. I've studied the origin stories. I've studied how they were institutionalized. I studied how they severed these sacred polar forces between the masculine and the feminine energies. This was a systematic effort to control society. In many ways, it was under the gaze of the Roman Empire, and when they kind of stole Christianity from the original teachings of Jesus, which was originally hugely spiritual. There's no real spirituality anymore, and it's again, it was done for a reason. So there are a lot of things that go on to keep a population docile, to keep a population in check, so that the big power players can push their agenda and can keep people distracted enough so that the real critical issues are not determined by them, and they're not even made aware of it.
The world's a stage.
It is, my friend. It really is.
Have you seen this movie called Zeitgeist?
I have not.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It's exactly what we're talking about. It's how the world's a stage, how religion is fake, how everything is fake, and it's mind blowing. I saw it when I was 15.
How do you say it?
I gonna Zeitgeist. It's
Okay.
I'm gonna write it to you later.
Yeah, send it to me.
And I was mind blown when I watched for the first time. What do you mean everything's fake? Everything's a stage. I was like, that's not possible. I forgot a lot about the movie, but it's basically what we're talking about.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I think one of the chapters is religion, right? And they state that actually that all religions are the same and they're all glorifying the sun, and Jesus is actually the sun, the star, right? And I don't know, man. It's been a while. I'm not gonna try to explain it because I don't want to spread misinformation. I just gonna tell to the listeners, go look it up. It's really interesting.
No, that's absolutely right. If you look at most of certainly the Abrahamic faiths, they're all pegged to astrotheological stories that existed well before their formation. If you look at the story of, I think it's Moses, it's directly paralleled with this guy Sargon of Akkad, where he was under the threat of infanticide. He was placed in like a reed basket and pushed down a river, and then some like holy daughter of some ruler picked him up and then raised him under the kingdom. This is not a story unique to Moses, right? There's a story of the solar Messiah story is repeated throughout history a dozen times. It's not to say that Jesus didn't exist, but it's to say that when you historize something, when you historize a spiritual figure, a prophet, somebody spreading truth, again, you remove the practical aspect. You tell people that they can't experience that themselves, when everything Jesus ever taught was about the opposite, was about you don't need church, you don't need religion, you find these things within you. This was the original message. So yeah, there are parallels even between the Old Testament and the New Testament with like the story of I think the story of Jesus was a carbon copy of the story of Joseph. I forget how it paralleled, but I think it was like the 12 tribes or the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 disciples. Like Joseph was sold for like 20 pieces of silver. Judas sold Jesus for 30 pieces or 20 pieces. I forget what it was, but anyway, whatever that thing is saying, it's true. These stories repeat themselves over history, and they're not repeated by mistake. Um, Again, not to say that the original teachings of these religions is false, but it's the framework that's used. It's the institutionalization that's used that becomes a control mechanism. And yeah,
What do you mean by a control mechanism? Because the institutions and those in power, they see that those stories work, and they touch people, so they just tweak it a little bit to their advantage.
well, because what they do is they set up, it's the original blueprint for societal control. So they create the hierarchical structure, which is a fallacy. So they have God at the top, then man, then nature. But in truth, when you're living in reality, they're on a playing field. They're on a level playing field. We have God within us. Nature is God or source, however you want to call it. We're all connected. It's one big ecosystem. We are multidimensional. We are living in the spiritual realm, in the physical world, right? So, but when you do that, when you create a hierarchy, people outsource their power. People outsource themselves to a authority figure, to a church, to an institution. We do it today. People sit on television in a fancy suit and a dress with nice makeup and well defined jawline, and they say something. People interpret it as gospel. You sit in a classroom, a teacher dictates to you, you accept it as divine. It's a systemization of thought. It's a way that you train people to look at themselves as inferior, when in truth, you, me, the tree, the rock, your grandmother, we're all part of the same fabric. It's a fallacy. So, but when you embed that in people's consciousness, when you make them feel like they should be afraid of some doctrine or dogma, when they must look at somebody as superior to them, it's a form of manipulation. It's a form of control. Absolutely.
So hierarchy is a form of control.
Absolutely. And look at our structure. Look at the way the corporations are run. We've got a board of directors. We've got a CEO, and it also creates it's the corrupt power mechanism. Why is a CEO making 500 times the amount of a factory worker? How is that legitimized? It's complete BS. There's no economic theory, there's no financial model that substantiates that. The only thing that substantiates it is that people accept their docility. People accept their overlord. People accept that they are worth less. Why? Because they're told that they are. Because they're told that that's the system that they must contort themselves to. There is no reason whatsoever why a CEO should be making that much more. There's no reason why all of these disparities exist on a societal basis. It's because corruption and power structure has completely blinded people to their true power and their true nature.
So let's remove hierarchy out of the equation. How would you expect a company to run? How would you expect society to run? Because at the end of the day, you still need a leader making the decisions. If you let everyone make the decisions, it's just chaos.
It's not about having a leader or not. The way that the modern economy, the way that the modern framework of capitalism takes form is through equity, is through ownership. So how does that look when you reform? Well, it means that you create companies that are owned by employees, not just by large institutional investors. It means that when a CEO is given shares in a company, so are the employees. It means that when you create a company that just extracts from nature, keeps taking, that they engage in regenerative practices where they care about the rehabilitation of the land, of the soil, of the community. Right now, Brew, we have one of the most parasitic entities operating on a global scale. We have this idea of globalism, and we think that it's like this supreme economic model. But in truth, globalism is like the most detached form of sort of corruption, where you have multinational companies that are going to like countries, for example, third world countries, and they're saying, listen, we want to extract your natural resources. So here's the deal. We're going to come in, we're going to set up shop, but we don't want to deal with your environmental policy. We don't want to deal with your culture. We don't want to deal with your rituals. We don't want to deal with any of this BS that you guys have going on at a cultural level. We just want to set up shop, and in return, we will we will set up an economy here. But the multinational corporation doesn't care about the country that they're operating on. They exist in some offshore entity. They're domiciled overseas. All they care about is extracting profit from their factory, from their mine, from whatever. It's about reorienting, and it's about putting the care back in the human being and in the society. That's how you do it, and it's very easily done. It has to be overturned. It has to be reimagined, and we have to have leaders in place and regulators in place that can push for that kind of reform.
I see. So more humane systems, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know. It sounds crazy.
It
I know it
does.
sounds crazy, but guess what? It's possible, and we have to start. Look, what's that song by Seal? We're never going to survive. We're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy, right, Brew? So
I guess.
we're not going to survive unless we get a little crazy. So let's get crazy. Let's get crazy.
I think what is missing, at least for me, is like one good example, right? If you had one company as a proof of success, then you can replicate that. But right now, would you say there's one?
There's a lot of models that exist that have this. There are plenty of cooperatives that exist around the globe. There's the Mondragon Cooperative in Spain.
Mondragon?
Yeah, there are cooperatives in England, where there are other methods of exchange that are being used. There's the time exchange method, which is not pegged to fiat currency. This fake credit-based monetary system that just keeps inflating and inflating and inflating. There are other methods that are being employed today. There are different education systems that are being shaped right now, where, especially on the young child education level, where they are incorporating these ideas of 3 hours of playtime, 3 hours of outside exploring time, less emphasis on sitting in a classroom, right? So there are ways that this is taking form in today's economy and in today's world, and it's about making these more mainstream. And what you'll find is that, and this is, by the way, I think the UN did a survey on this, on cooperatives. I think cooperatives employ 150 million people worldwide, but the happiness gauge, or whatever gauge they use, is 80%, versus I think it's I don't want to say the wrong number, but it's considerably lower for the standard kind of economic model that's being deployed across. So these things are taking form, and it's about bringing them to people's awareness, and it's about people who are people looking to start businesses that are willing to incorporate these models. And again, this is important. It's about having governmental agencies that are willing to incentivize companies, whether it's through tax incentives to, lock in a 20-year contract in a region, or to give people, again, other incentives to run these kinds of businesses, because it's important for people to understand that this can't take place in this kind of utopian ideology. It has to be rooted in the real-time incentives. But over time, those real-time incentives will become more aligned with humanity, because people will start to shift. We have to plant the seeds now.
Yeah, I just think that those in power are not very interested on that right now. They have other priorities. But Aaron, I honestly, I think at some point is inevitable. It's should happen, or we're gonna all die as humanity. We perish, and because it's gonna be inevitable over time. AI is gonna replace all of our jobs. We're gonna have to change the ways we approach things. There's no way around it, and yeah. And another thing, over time, as technology advances, I think the truth becomes universal. Back in the day, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, any of those things, it was easier to hide everything, any lie, any corruption. Nowadays, it's becoming less and less easy to hide those things, the corruption, the lies, and we all share information through the web. We all just gonna have more and more knowledge over time. So at some point, we're gonna know what is healthy, what it's not, and we're gonna be able to demand it, I guess.
I think that's absolutely right. I think that we will see that, and that's, I think, will be the bedrock of what I call, kind of the evolution of consciousness, because people are living they're walking around, they're sleepwalking. They're not conscious of the real mechanics of this world. And I'll quote somebody that said, I forget who it was, but it's the quote that the revolution will not be televised. And this is true, because the real revolution takes place in the hearts and minds of the people. And when the hearts and minds of the people shift, that will bleed into the systems that we occupy. That will bleed into the institutions that we support. And over time, as people become aware of these systemic issues, these marginalizations across the globe, I would have never had access to what's going on in Nepal 10 years ago. Neither would you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're witnessing. I don't care what people say. I don't care how well how eloquently they spin this story. We are witnessing on a live stream basis mass genocide in Palestine. There's nothing, you can't tell me a story that they're fighting terrorists. You can't lie to me about there's no war going on. It's a systematic eradication of a group of people. And what are we seeing from our leaders around the world? No one is stepping in. There was the saying, never again after the Holocaust. Well, guess what? It's happening again. And what are we doing about it? Well, we had COVID. We have a genocide. Guess what? Each time there's a massive distortion. Each time there's a massive inversion. Each time people are showed how corrupt and how effed up this world is, the stronger the revolution becomes. It's a balance of polarity. So I'm banking on humanity here. I'm banking that we will eventually, because by the way, Brew, guess what? This is another illusion. The power lies with the people. To think otherwise is completely delusional. All of these systems, all these politicians, all of these companies are dependent upon our consent, whether it's through our wallet, through our vote, through our complacency. We are the ones who feed this machine. Yeah. And we have the ability, collectively, once we awaken, to remove that power.
Yeah, that's true. And I believe, same Joe Rogan says that a lot. Most people are good. And I believe that. I think most people, they want the same things, right? They want a family. They want to have a healthy life. They want some money to travel. They want to have some good food on their table. Most people, they're good and they want the same things. And as you mentioned, as soon as they awaken and they realize that they kind of all have this, the pushback starts, right? they realize that they have this power and they can do the pushback. And I do believe that this happens, but very slowly. If you look at society, history of humanity as a whole, improvement happens, but it's not perceivable in our lifetime. Maybe when there's a Martin Luther King there, or like some important figure pops up.
I'm gonna put a wager on you. We'll place a side bet that happens in our lifetime. Okay, we'll reconnect in 20 years and we'll talk. Okay,
I hope so. But Aaron, like humanity as a whole, we're not even babies. I was talking to ChatGPT the other day. Take the whole history of the planet Earth, right? For how long have humanity been around? Just give me the percentage. You know how much it is? 0.00004%. It's like, what? That's how long have we been around? Like, we're nothing. So I think we assume that we have everything figured out until we discover something better. Like the same way that we assume that the Earth was the center of the galaxy until we discovered that was not the case, and there's so many other universal truths. Alchemy was a thing for a long time. Then it was not a thing anymore. They realized that you cannot make gold out of what was it again? I think they were trying to make the philosopher's stone out of pea, something like it's nonsense, But over time we improve, but it's very slow. You say it's during your lifetime. I think it takes a little longer because let's take this example from the sun and the Earth being the center of the universe. I think Giordano Bruno, the Italian guy, he said, no, it's not Earth. It's not the center of the galaxy. It's the sun. They killed him, and I think it took 200 or 300 more years before they realized he was correct. 200 years. So
look what they did with Galileo. But guess what? This is the point. all of these control mechanisms, when they are exposed, they lose their power.
Yeah.
So when people start seeing how the education system works, they're going to start removing their children from it. When people start seeing how the scientific orthodoxy, the medical system orthodoxy is corrupt, they were going to remove their consent from it. And they're going to look for alternatives. And given the current framework, given social media, given mass communication, given the reach that we have globally now as citizens of countries, I can communicate with somebody in India, in Germany, in Australia, right? Today I spoke to you in Germany, someone in London, someone in Australia, and someone in where was she? I forget where she was, maybe New Zealand. But the point is that we can have these conversations and we can connect and we can exchange information, right? So
Yeah.
I think that because things are so connected now and because information is so free flowing, that I think that things will accelerate far faster. And by the way, look what happened with COVID. Look at how fast information spread. Look at how fast people started pushing back. Look at how fast
Yeah.
people aligned, and look at how it's still being pushed today. So I'm gonna bet on humanity here.
You know, you know, it would be great if the aliens just showed up. I think it would. I'm not joking. It sounds. Some people say it sounds crazy, but I think it would help because we just enlarge our view of life, of everything. Like we're gonna stop looking at ourselves with such big importance. Like we're not the only ones. There's other humans out there, other life forms. Like maybe we can learn something from them. If they can come here, like it means that they survived throughout many years, maybe more than we have been around because they developed those technologies to travel throughout the universe. So I don't know. It just makes me feel very hopeful.
I'll take it. I'll take anything. You aliens, circuses, parades, balloon magicians, whatever it takes to awaken people and to bring power back to the people.
Do you have a religion, Aaron?
My religion is the human religion, is humanity. I believe that we are all individually part of source. We all are really connected. I believe that organized religion has distorted this connection, has distorted our true identity. That the origin of all these religions originally, before they were obscured, spoke to all of their prophets, all of their sages, all of their all of these deeply spiritual and intuitive teachers told us that we were all connected to this divine energy, to source, to the creator, that we were all source experiencing itself in our unique individual form. So I was born Jewish, but I don't align with those values and with those teachings. I align with what I would like to say is something more rooted in reality, not abstraction.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. There's a difference, right, between religion and spirituality. In order to practice religion, you should go to establishment. You should go into a church or something like that. Spirituality, no, it's all inside of yourself. It's all between you and yourself and your God. And that just sounds healthier, in my opinion.
Well, anytime the power is given back to you to make your personal experience true and meaningful to you individually, that's the way it should be. Because guess what? You are the only thing that's experiencing your life through your perspective, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your choices. Yes, there's all the other people here, but your version of reality comes from you, from your consciousness. How other people impact you is a different story. But to give somebody back that power, wow! I mean, what a meaningful thing to do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Neil deGrasse Tyson I think he said that we are all made of star particles, because everything that exists because a star exploded. And he was like, it's not the universe and you are part of the universe. You're made of the same thing. And I don't know, the way he says it's beautiful.
It's absolutely right. I mean, he's absolutely right. But it's even more practical than that. if you look at our connection to nature, right? We breathe in oxygen, we expel carbon dioxide. Well, vegetation does the opposite. If you look at our microbiome in our body, which is millions of, um, of, of cells and organisms that
Yeah.
constitute and that allow us to digest food, that create cognition, that allow us to think, to have emotion. I mean, they come from nature,
Yeah.
right? We are not separate from nature. We are nature experiencing itself, right? So we are operating under this illusion of separation. We're not separate from nature. We are, and we're not even separate from human beings. We have mirror neurons in our brain that allow us to experience when someone else smiles as if we were smiling. We have we have neurotransmitters that neuroscience is showing that we are healed more effectively when we are expressing our grief with somebody else comforting us. It's not because the person has stronger arms or is more attractive looking. It's because we resonate. We are connected relationally. This is an illusion that we have to overcome because we are stardust. We are all connected. We are all part of the same ecosystem, many ecosystems. And to deny that is to live a delusional reality.
Have you ever thought about becoming a politician?
I have. I just don't want to be shot on the podium when I'm giving a when I'm running for office.
Come on, it's rare. It doesn't happen that often. I mean,
I
in the
am
US,
thinking
I
about
think it happens a lot, right?
Exactly. I am thinking about it, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I really want to focus on this book that's coming out in like 3 weeks time. And I want to start, really kind of like speaking to these issues because it's important for me to, give people knowledge and understanding that that's been removed from them. And it's been removed from them for not the right reasons. And I want to kind of like start there, and maybe after, we'll see how people resonate with it, and then maybe from there we can talk about a political career. But I will tell you that my platform will be very simple. I will not take money from lobbyists, and I will have the real best interests in mind. So that will be my platform, because we are killing ourselves with allowing corporations to dictate the course of humanity. We are.
Yeah, I agree. There you go. You see, I think there's no better way of changing the system than from the inside. At least that's what I hear. But at the same time, there's so many of those guys that before joining the current, how'd you say? Oh man, I blanked. Administration, the current administration, they were all. I'm gonna be precise. There was this guy who was saying all the time, we need to release the Epstein files. The Epstein files are the most important thing to be released ever. Blah blah blah. And then he joined the administration. Oh, they don't exist. I don't know why, but apparently, from some people changed drastically when they joined the system. They have so many nice promises and ideas beforehand, but when they join, it feels like a different person. I don't know what happens in the process.
Well, they're told to toe the line, right? So when you work for an administration that says, look, you may have said that you want to release the Epstein files, or you may have said that you wanted to have this disclosure, but here's the deal. We have 7 billionaires on that list that are big donors to my party that we can't release their names because we don't want to disrupt the natural order of things, right? Or when the attorney general is linked to some of these people in other ways, you're going to naturally get pushback because the power structure will not allow itself to disintegrate through one of the, through this administration. They're the ones, again, when power and money dictate policy, these are the issues that you run into. But good luck. Look, you'll be able to see my essence and my soul through my book, and then you tell me if I'm corruptible.
All right, Aaron. So you mentioned your book. Let's talk about your book. So it's coming out in a few weeks from now.
Coming out in a few weeks. I've been working on it for I don't even know how long, but it seems like a lifetime. But it's called Before We Forget: The Guide to Personal and Collective Awakening. And what it really is it provides a framework through which people can, again, identify these distortions, identify this sort of manufactured nature of the reality. We have things like people don't know this, but we manufacture scarcity. Nothing is scarce in this world, right? Like we have abundance all around us. But when people control natural resources, when people control economies, well, it creates scarcity. When your exchange rate or when your exchange system is dictated by a central bank, well, it's a control mechanism, right? So there's all these kind of illusions that we live within. I expose those illusions, and I allow people to kind of penetrate them and see them for what they are, and show them how these illusory constructs have impacted them personally, and how they can overcome that infiltration, and how they can really empower, and how they can live a life rooted in truth and integrity and coherence, and how that spreads to the collective once we embody that way of being in that consciousness. So I'm really excited about getting that out, and I think that it will have a huge impact on people, around the world, I hope.
All right, me too. Any final remarks?
This was great. This was so much fun. So, Brew, thank you for having me. Hopefully, we can reconnect in the near future. If I run for office in the near term, I'll hit you up and let you know.
Yes, please let me know. Don't get shot. Release the Epstein files and the Roswell files, please.
Too good.
All right, man, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
See you next time, everyone. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the Brewcast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a Brewcast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy Brewcast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing Brewcast merch, or watching an episode of the show, and send it to us and become part of Brewcast. We'll feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.